So what's up? Today, which episode is it, Win? Mosaic Podcast number 7. Yeah. So today we are joined by Jakub. So I always pronounce your name wrong. Is it Jakub or Jakub or?
It's Jakub.
Jakub.
Like with, sound B. Jakub.
Jakub Krcmar.
Yeah, and the surname is very difficult. So you can just...
No, let me try.
It's Jakub Krcmar.
Jakub Krcmar.
Yeah, it's kind of there. Yeah.
All right, so today we're joined by Jakub Krcmar.
Yeah.
The founder at Veracity Protocol.
Correct.
And you co-founded several companies, right? As I can see, OneProof and Stella Bolt.
Yes.
And you were the partner of Chief of Product at, I'm trying to pronounce it, ArtStack, right?
Yes.
And you were freelance before, and you were the user experience director at VNEC, right? Vignette.
Yes.
Interactive, and lead user experience at Fifth Play.
Yes.
So, what did you study? Because when I look at LinkedIn just now, right? I saw self-education for blockchain, for user experience, So, did you have a formal, higher education like bachelor and master?
I did
social psychology, right?
Yeah, I did. How to frame this? I have my master's.
Yeah.
It's in marketing communication. To sum it up, the only thing I learned about after 5 years of studying marketing is basically 3 basic rules. Do something amazing, tell stories about how you are doing it, and support other people sharing those stories.
You mean branding, right, when you say marketing? Or it's different?
Branding, marketing, that's everything together. I chose the marketing path because it was very easy to study. My parents wanted me to do university. I wanted to have the university life, but also wanted to have enough space for work, because that time I was already freelancing quite a lot.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect way and combination how to do it that time.
And how about UI UX? I've seen you doing a lot of UI UX.
Yeah. So basically the journey was since I was 15 years old, I started to do websites, and later on more complicated websites and web products and services, and I started to do mobile apps. And basically, even though I was programming in the beginning, later on I was just focusing on the user interface and user experience, and really putting the whole vision together. So I had a client with an idea, and I was the one being able to materialize it into something tangible.
You learned it by yourself.
Yes. I learned it by myself.
But okay, he's an UI UX guy as well.
Nice.
He studies industrial, right? Industrial UI UX.
And the way I learned it was always kind of daring. To give you an example, I was starting with as a UI designer in Photoshop doing websites.
Yeah.
I decided to write a book about designing websites in Photoshop. It was the first one in the Czech Republic at that time. I was 17 when I did it, and I did it only because I saw one guy in Slovakia doing a book which sucked. And I was I can do better right now. And my friends were yes, so then do it, And I was okay, I'll do it. And that was basically a point where I was decided okay, I really need to learn with Photoshop properly, even when I already signed for the book. So that way, I went into...
When you say Photoshop, I mean Adobe, right? Adobe Photoshop.
Adobe Photoshop, yeah.
Man, that's tough, man. I tried once with Adobe Premiere. It took me almost a year, 6 months to a year, man.
I really loved it, and that book deal really made me to push myself into it and take it seriously, right? And so I finished the book. It was selling really great, and actually 10 years after, I was finding it at universities as studying material, which made me very sad, because like, why do they use such old books, to study? There's so much better stuff now. These things get outdated very fast, but it started landing me a lot of great jobs. That's really where my career, took off. And now I started to do big projects in Czech Republic, and later on also in abroad, where I was then lucky to meet, a bunch of media reporters and new media designers, which were a combination of war reporters and new media developers, and we start building projects for UNICEF and World Bank and Amnesty International, and doing projects in Israel, for companies in media. And
how old were you
around the world? I was 21, I think, 22. And before that,
I was still in school doing nothing. I was 21.
And before that, you were asking about the UX career, right?
Yeah.
So there was the same story with the book. The UX started to be the buzzword, right?
Yeah.
That time, and I was already designing websites and stuff, and I saw this opportunity with the company Fifth Play. They were looking. Basically, the company approached me that they are looking for developers to outsource to them, but part of the deal is to have a UX designer.
Yeah.
And if I would like to be part of the selection, and I didn't even knew what it actually means, but I said, of course, I'm UX designer, let's go for it. And I just learned everything, in the week prior. It kind of clicked with what I was already doing, so it was just another way of looking at things.
I'm looking at Fifth Play right now. Helps leading brands turns homes and other buildings into smart living and working
space. They still exist.
What does it mean?
Great. They were doing cool stuff at the time. They were doing smart cities and integrations, and where you have all your gas meters and electricity. It was a big company.
Okay.
And you had all the meters, all the appliances, everything was interconnected into one dashboard, including city services for truly smart integrated city. It was really amazing idea. I just think they were way too early, with that. The tech and society was not ready.
But who inspired you to go into the marketing, the world of marketing and UI UX? Do you have a bunch of friends that
it was really
or you realize you are different when you're 15 and you want to do
normal
something
as you start to do something like website. It's a hobby, right? Hobby turns into something people start paying you for, and then it turns into something you actually do, right?
But most people can't find a hobby, right? I mean, for most of our friends or my friends as well, they can't find that thing they want to.
It's something, you need to find in it you love. For me, it was probably the perfectionism in it, and being able to put things together, right? And also, I like to be challenged by environment, right? You were meeting with a lot of clients which were, company representatives, right? And you were 17, 18-year-old with, acne on your face, right? And they didn't take you serious until they start seeing, your approach to work and the outputs, right? And I like that as well. And so, and I love the work, and it was just then expanding and taking me, to ways where the whole industry was developing, right?
Do you ever go back to your high school and give a speech and,
Yeah, I did that multiple times. Yeah.
Did you inspire anyone?
Many people
come
actually,
to you hey man, I want to start up, and
many people that's something I'm most proud of, that actually there were people writing me your presentation or your book, really, that was why start of my career, or it inspired me to do this freelance job, because I also did a lot of talks about for young people that it's not just being employed and starting a company. There's a middle path, and you can be independent professional, and you need to learn specific skills and thinking to be able to do it. What's your price, how to approach this, how to do basic contracts and negotiation, right? How to find what you can do. And also, I was dealing with the bullshit of finding your passion stuff, right? Passion doesn't come until you have a certain mastery in the thing you are doing. So you just need to experiment. I was always
You mean
thinking,
trying different paths, right?
Yeah. If you don't know, just do as much things as possible, so at least you know what not to do, right? And it will lead you somewhere. And it was exactly what I was doing. I was like always saying, I have a fear as a guiding mechanism here. Whatever I'm more afraid of, like, is it giving a talk, or doing this big project?
Yeah.
That's usually like indicator of that's something you should be doing. There's this great book, War of Art, not Art of War, that's, but War of Art from Steven Pressfield, about like this inner force which is always working against us,
Yeah.
It's always why we don't do that thing we always wanted to do. And I really recommend reading it.
So, like, what if you failed like so many times in things that you are passionate about? Would you like keep trying, or would you try a different path?
Sorry, say again.
I mean, you let's say you're passionate about startup, right? But you failed so many times, and would you try again, or would you go to a different path? But let's say I want to be a venture capital, right?
Yeah.
And I failed so many times. I don't have a degree, but shall I just keep trying, or shall I give up, try a different path? Like,
I guess
sometimes people get into the wrong path, right?
Yeah. There's this like one of the other stupid like recommendations, like fail your way through, right?
Yeah.
That's like again very limited. You need to have like failures in which you exactly knew what was your hypothesis, right? What went wrong, what you can improve, right?
Yeah.
That then you can grow in certain direction. If you have this, you will eventually get there. It's just a matter of time. And then it's of course a question of your skill and talent, right? You can always build your skill. If you have extra talent, that's the extra 20% that matters, right? That makes things easier or puts you into like a top tier. If you don't have it, it's just harder work. You may never be in the top, but still you can manage. So you just keep pushing.
Cool. So back to your company, Veracity Protocol. It's a super, super cool company. Graduate from Techstars.
Yep.
So is that in Denver, Boulder, or
it's
Silicon Valley? It's strange. Like I don't know why Techstar has their headquarters in the middle of the states.
I don't know.
Instead of like in the Bay Area.
Actually, I think Boulder is very interesting space for a lot of companies, but I don't really have much information, so no more comments on that. But we did Techstars in New York. That was one of the major programs. Otherwise, Techstars is doing accelerators all around the world, and that was mostly the beginning of our path and forming what Veracity Protocol really is about these days, and one of the most important events really in my career as well.
So Veracity Protocol, which you use computer vision and camera to identify the characteristic of physical items in a digital way, and you put it on digital ledger. So could you explain more, how did you started this company, and how did you find your co-founders? How did you get to prototype? It was a very tough journey, and all the way to Techstar, and now you got invested by Intel Capital. That was a long way, right?
There was, so in the beginning, it was mostly the journey with my other co-founder Roman, who we met almost 6 years ago. He was starting Artstack, which was the startup for art to trade artworks without physically touching them, with automated market valuation based on data sets. A lot of
you
cool
mean trade
things.
Online?
Yes, a lot of cool
so
things.
So it's a platform, e-commerce platform for art.
Exactly. A lot of cool things that time, a lot of innovations. And he's like a Renaissance man, older guy, extremely experienced, with experience in a variety of areas, which seemingly wouldn't connect until it clicks. And in that moment, then it's the amazing part. And he was looking for someone to put his vision together, to materialize it, which was my job back then, right? That's how we met. And I was like, let's do it. Let's definitely start. So as we were building this, 2 years in, we found the whole issue of counterfeits in artwork and how major it really is, how it's a problem for people to trust, if they rent their artwork for exhibition, is it the same thing when it comes back, since it's so easy to do super fake, and so on and so on. So we were looking at all the solutions out there, like RFID chips, DNA markers, diamond dust, crazy things.
Yeah, right. That's
and we basically saw they all suck. It's like it's invasive. It's embedded security elements. They can be removed, cloned, tampered with. You need special hardware. You need to be expert. It's super expensive. And for most of the artworks, they won't allow you to embed anything into it, right? And some solutions were solving it with, certificate on a blockchain or ownership on the blockchain.
Yeah.
But there's no connection between the blockchain entry and the physical piece of artwork, right?
Yeah.
Which has actually the value.
Yeah.
So what's the point then, since that can be replaced? So we were thinking there has to be easier way to do this, considering the artwork itself has a unique material structure down to a level of details. Same as a human fingerprint, you cannot really replicate that surface down to a level of microns. It's impossible. So why not fingerprint that and use that as a
how
way
did you find out that idea?
So that's like how we work with Roman. Roman is more like a visionary, a strategist. He has the idea somewhere there. He sends you bunch of ideas, some of them great, some of them stupid, but he can feel that certainly. And then I came in and did in-depth analysis of all the applications and technologies there. Really did a deep dive into it, right? Because I'm a geek.
So you guys would talk about a lot of crazy stuff, right? About technologies, about visionaries and.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And then we had this huge spreadsheet, and it starts showing clearly what's the path to go. So we formed the hypothesis. We contacted several universities. At one we met Kamil, which is now our CTO and co-founder, and guy who is always introducing as our Steve Wozniak. And who was like, okay, give me some data, I'll run some experiments, let's see. So, we created the first data set, we saw it's working. And
it was not easy to find, right? When you have to think of which university to go for and which guy and which lab, right?
And it's such a big difference. At one university it was how would I describe opening an old drawer at your grandma's, and there's this tinge of old air, and I feel like it's super, and they didn't get the idea at all, and they were kind of laughing at it and looking at the piece of sweatshirt under a microscope and telling me that's not possible, and then in Brno at the Technological University they had the proper approach, anything is possible. We need some data. We need to run some tests.
Do they have the IP or it's something that create?
No. They don't have the IP.
Ground.
We have the IP for that.
Okay.
And the university is very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And so they like their students to cooperate with companies. So that's the platform we work with. Until now, we are deeply connected with them. We use some of their resources. Their computer vision professor is our advisor. Is part also of the founding team, and so it's a very deeply connected relationship, and since then we formed the company. It was called One Proof. We were focusing on art. I'm these days I'm always saying like
it's a completely new company, right? It's not like that art company.
It was a new company, exactly. Okay. New company just with this solution for art world, which would also solve the art stack problem, right? Yeah. So it was like that was the idea. And now I'm saying like, art market is a perfect trap for solutions like this.
Yeah.
Because it seems obvious, like perfect market fit, right? There's an issue. It's a big market, big price tags of artworks. But when you actually get out there and start, trying to get there, you'll see, people like to keep things shady. The artworks that doesn't really move that much, and that often, it's very innovation resistant space, and it's just bleeding you dry, and you are losing time. We literally lost like a year and a half because of that. And then thanks to our investors, Tensor Ventures, who invest in the company with a vision of beyond art world, and we start working on pilots.
So that's a VC
in Czech Republic. Yeah, deep tech VC in Czech Republic, and we start doing pilots on black boxes in airspace, and on in semiconductor space, and on security IDs and paperworks.
Yeah.
And start seeing the solution is generally applicable and works on much more interesting use cases. We start playing with the blockchain part as well, because we saw this as really solving the Oracle issue for blockchain, how to connect physical to digital.
Yeah.
And that was when we formed Veracity Protocol, and put everything together in order to enter Techstars, because for Techstars we had to have our stuff together and be really ready and organized and structured, and that really pushed us to get into that stage, and we've been accepted, and that 3 months has been really
it's
like
pretty intense. I think
intense,
it's like hell, right?
I was feeling like a punching bag, and you're just hoping you'll get out on the other end in the right form and shape that it will.
So we will go deep into Techstar. I got a lot. I'm pretty curious about the Techstar program, but back to Veracity. Like, how long does it take to build the first like MVP or even prototype to for customer? A beta version.
Right now or before?
Before, when you started this company.
Like the first version of algorithm took us years, to put together to something really applicable, because there's more difficult part to it, right? One is to do the verification based on computer vision. Another thing is to work around a different environment, different light, different angles, different cameras, different materials. That's much a harder part, and that's what took most of the work. But once we got into that shape, we were faster and faster in deploying and showing a solution. So it went from 5 months, 3 months to a month to 2 weeks to instant. With
how big was the team when you guys formed that startup company? Was that like just you and Raman,
like
right?
Five guys.
5 guys.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's super tough to find co-founder, right? Because I saw a lot of entrepreneurs here in Taiwan. They have like so much difficulties in finding co-founders. One person that don't take salary or take little pay and get equity in the company, which you don't know if it's gonna go big. Yeah.
For us, it was like from friendships and relationship existing. So like with Roman, I was already working, right? With Camille, we started already with one proof. That was the way how we, learned about each other. Then we had another co-founder, Marvin, with whom I was working intensively before, and for some time in Dubai as well, and we knew each other for a very long time. So we weren't really in that stage, we should find a co-founder and how to do it.
Did you get like funding from your family, like angels, or you start from that VC in Czech Republic?
No, initially we were funding it from our own pockets, and really friends and family, some angels here and there. It was tough, and this
is what I worry the most about startup, right? Like, you just gotta get money from your family. If we don't have deep pocket, right? We gotta like borrow from our uncles or like parents, and that's risky, right? you know, how are you going to return all those money?
No, honestly, I'll give you an example. Like, you know, when I was independent contractor, I was making really a lot of money.
When you were 15 years old?
No, it was like, you know,
right?
22, 23, somewhere around that. And I was very comfortable, you know, I didn't have to work much. I had very high hour rate, you know, was making a lot of money. But then I entered the startup world, right? And I thought I have the entrepreneurial mindset that I can form and manage teams, since I was leading teams and working with designers and developers before, you know, and that I can run a startup and be a head of product initially, and that all crushed, you know. It's like very different reality then, and that's where Roman, you know, the co-founder, really helped me, because he has been a mentor to me since, and through his like tremendous experience was really guiding me through these processes, you know. And also see.
Are you guys from the same generation, or he's much older than you?
He's like 55 now. Yeah, oh, so I could be his son basically.
It's like broken eye, right?
So that was really the most critical relationship, because like the part where, you know, I suddenly realized that my income would get to 1/5.
Yeah.
Right, and that I would be working crazy amounts of hours with unsure future, that I will have to cut all the ties, all the clients and relationships, you know. That's a big thing, you know. You always need something to start again if one thing fails, and if you leave them cut, it will just deteriorate, right? It's harder to get back. And there was a huge ego battle inside me later.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever like fight him, you know, like in a meeting, and you know, you have different opinions and you just...
No, yeah, we had like, such a crazy heated conversations many times.
And sometimes, like, you know, I saw that from, I don't know how to pronounce that, Anderson Horowitz, right? I don't quite remember. It's a huge VC in the Bay Area. He said, like, sometimes they oppose or against someone's idea just because they want to go against it, you know, just for that purpose, to make everyone more competitive, right? To get things better, you know.
Exactly.
So, you know, you have much ego at the time. I think it must be quite difficult for you to work with, you know, the startup, right?
Yeah,
so.
I guess, but that's like also linked, I would say, to startup mentality, that you are able to question things and be open-minded. Without this, you cannot really build companies and try new things, right? So you need to turn it inwards as well. And you know, and always be like, maybe I'm wrong, you know, maybe I am the reason why, you know, this happened, and maybe, you know, let's say that he's actually right. Let's explore this for a moment, you know. And this ability is then, I would say it's critical, right? And otherwise you just, you know, you would punch each other in the face.
Yeah.
And
do you have that moment like, let's cool down and go back to your room and have a bottle of red wine and just chill and think about like what happened today, you know?
Yeah,
what
and
has
that
gone
gives
wrong?
you, if it reaches that point, which it didn't for a very long time, but it did before, then it's a very good thing to do, and then you just saw how silly it was or how stupid you were on both sides. So
yeah, cool, man. So back to Techstars, you know, we are always curious about you know, things happen at Techstars, like one of the largest accelerators in the world. So how did you apply Techstars? I know that it's like they only accept not more than 1% of the applicants. So do you have to like send a deck, or you have to write a proposal, 100 pages, things like that? How does that work?
Hopefully I'll remember it correctly, because you know, in startup timeline, that's like eons ago. And even though it was last year, which is crazy, I feel like 10 years older already. But initially it was through a connection through one of our advisors, who introduced us to one of the MDs who was running the program, a managing director. Okay. And he basically met with me in Prague. I just introduced him the concept, the general idea, right? And that kind of started the process where it was series of calls, right? And putting materials together, but mostly calls. Techstars is not really that much interested in your company and your startup idea and in the technology itself. It's more interested in the founders.
Oh, really? Okay.
And how they work, who they are, what's their background, how they, put it together, how they react to things, because they know from experience.
That's the first thing they look at, right? And then the second priority would be to look at the technology and product.
Yeah. Because they know from experience, that many startups during the Techstars program will pivot many times. Their startups, beyond recognition, they completely change direction.
Yeah,
so they
like
select, they select and invest really into the founders, not really in the technology in the back, which of course is an important part of it, but not as much. And then the process was, series of calls where, I was having very late calls because of the time differences. I was in Taiwan actually most of the time. And
why?
You
weren't married, right? At the time.
Not yet, but usually I like to spend winter in Taiwan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the best weather to be here, like in South, But it's for another discussion.
It's a little off topic, but if I walk on the street in Prague, right, and I say Taiwan, do the people there know like where's Taiwan, and do they?
Yeah, I would say years ago, no. They would probably like just recite what,
is it China?
Chinese government is saying Taiwan is part of China. But these days they would know, because there has been a lot of press coverage of, Taiwan, China, Czech Republic relationship. There has been with the Prague mayor.
I know. He just get MOU, right, or like sister city with Taipei mayor co-venture.
There's a lot of actual reality, and also Czech people, through the history and through the oppression of communism regime, they can see through all the bullshits, and all these things, and they.
So Czech was communist. Country
till 89. Yeah.
So it's like East Europe, right? Most of East Europe countries
was part of the Soviet Union.
Russia is Soviet Union,
So that legacy leaves you like an ability to really look into things as they are. So they like Taiwan. People now know Taiwan actually invests more money than China in Czech Republic.
Oh, I didn't know. So
which is interesting information.
Manufacturing to set up like factory in
most of, I don't know the details. I just know the figure is bigger than what China invests, because China made a lot of promises which they didn't deliver on, and then they threatened the head of Senate for him not to go to Taiwan for a visit.
Yeah, I know.
Which actually was connected to his death. Because he was a very old guy, it was very stressful for him, and his family was basically linking that event as to
got so much pressure from Beijing, right?
Yes, and also from part of the Czech government, which is very very pro Beijing. So also all this media coverage around that subject made Czechs more aware. So I think these days, if you go through the streets and ask about Taiwan, people will be like, we know Taiwan, great country, thanks for the masks, and
So it's like, from a political point of view, Germany and corporations in Germany is working very close with like China, right? So they don't talk like publicly bad things about China. But how about Czech Republic, right? You guys got all the big corporates and people like you, all the government officers or member of parliament. Like, would you talk publicly about the relation between China and Taiwan? And do you see Taiwan as a country?
Of course, I see Taiwan as a country, right? That would be against the most like inner values of Czechs and Czech Republic when they look at what democracy is and how hard is it to get. From the history to say that Taiwan is not a democratic country. That would be against everything I stand for and like the Czechs in the history stand for. So that's definitely that part. And look, for China, I always like distinguish two things. One is China as a country and people, which I think is amazing, and the Chinese Communist Party, which is very, very different thing.
So I think, they are growing so rapidly in the past 10 years, right? So, maybe that was the reason, because they don't have democracy. They can move things very quick. If it's like in Taiwan, then, you have the opposition party and you have the current government. Things just move very, very slow. So that's why I think it's like Singapore as well, right? You only got one party control the whole country. So back to Techstars. We are talking too much about other thing. We don't want it to be political today. So so what was your plan, if you don't get accepted by Techstars at the time? Do you want to go after some market in Southeast Asia,
No, actually,
in US or Europe?
I think we would just die if we wouldn't get accepted. It would be the end of the road. Yeah, really. It was like, we were pulling it for a long time. We were
mean
burning
running out of cash?
Yeah, we were burning, we already, I think that time, I may be incorrect, but there were 2 times where we already ran out of money and we were just, working for free, and everyone was working for free and really pushing through. Then you just got used to it when it was the third
You're
time.
like Elon Musk, He doesn't take salary. Not until recently, he got a big compensation, it's like 70 or 300 million. So YC, right? Techstars, super intense. So how do you fit into that culture? Were you a very intense kind of person when you were in Czech Republic? And I know in the States, right, you're seeing all other startups as well in the same program. It would be so competitive, right? Everyone's fighting, and I want the mentors, I want these mentors. How do you feel?
So it wasn't competitive at all.
Wow.
There was a great,
surprise.
there was a great atmosphere of friendship and support between the teams and between everyone. There were no fights about resources, and it would be stupid. There were so much resources, to work with. Everyone got
too much.
There was too much to handle, actually, and the biggest issue we had was, not enough time, not enough energy, and cognitive overload of options, right? And that's where the advisor steps in and the Techstars steps in to teach you, to educate you, to guide you through it, to help you and to push you really hard in order to to shape you and to get you into the position where you should be at a specific point of a time, just through their sheer experience from previous programs, where they know what they need to do, what the startups struggle with, and what will happen if they don't push you, right? So so it was and to your previous question, I always thought, you're young, right? And you're thinking I can do so much and work long hours and really bulldozer through anything. But there I really was hitting my limits. Everyone in the team hit their limits at a certain point, where you would just come to our house, which was this crazy cheap Airbnb in New Jersey, which with colorful walls, which was giving you a headache just being in it. And you would come there, you would see us just screaming at each other, at 2 a.m. and because we couldn't decide on priorities, because everything is a priority, right? And everyone has exhausted,
But
screaming.
how? Do you guys vote on priorities or everyone has their own priorities?
Well, we eventually set up in the rhythm where every evening we decompress from the day. We say what was good, what was bad, what we think needs to be done, and we just then talk through it. And then Roman was usually the one who was able.
Roman was in the States as well.
Yeah.
How many people were there?
There 5 in total, and 2 changed.
So what was the deal? Does Techstars have to pay for all your living expenses?
They give you $20K, at least for the program. They gave us $20K US to basically cover our expenses.
Does that relate to any equity at Veracity Protocol, your company?
Yeah, they take equity. They basically take equity. You get into the program, they give you $20K, they give you a convertible note option if you want to take it for I think 100 something, which something you take if you are desperate, and that's
20K for each person.
No, in total.
For 3 months.
Yeah. So
that's not much though, right?
Just covered our Of course, we used our own money to be there.
Like, I mean, for rental, for food, for transportation.
Basically, just till now was still like kind of repaying the debt since that time.
Wow. Do you guys live together?
Yeah,
like
we lived together.
Or?
Yeah, we had a house,
Wow, cool, man.
Yeah. It's crazy times.
So like when you got accepted by the program and they flew you to the States, so what was the first thing you did with Techstars? Would they like put a lot of, how does that process look like? Would they give you sort of like, is it compulsory to finish all the KPIs that they would give to you, or it is non-compulsory that you can do everything, they just throw all the resources at you?
So they have a structure for the whole 3 months that they really push you to follow, but they don't really like get that much involved that they would be telling you what to do, right? They really push you to find your own way. And basically the first month is where you came with your beautiful idea, which then gets smashed with all these waves of advisors. So you have like mentor mixers where there's 70 mentors, and you have like 2 weeks, and every day you meet like 6 people, which are like amazing experience, advisors from big company or big startup or fintech or whatever, and you have to explain them in 20 minutes, who you are, what you do, why is it amazing, how they can help you.
For how many days,
That was the first whole month basically. Wow. So that was amazingly hard to do, because for everyone you needed to research, prepare, do that, then follow up.
So let's say like for the first day, right, you met those advisors, and the next day do you have to curate your idea slightly, or you just pitch the same thing?
You need to be done. There's another wave coming. So
okay.
There's no time to even fart in between, and during that time you need to still, run the company, any project you may have, every other things just don't stop there, right? So, and this is really just that first month to make sure what you have is something actual valuable, right?
So you do have like existing business when you are at Techstars program?
We still were mostly, we had
Czech
some
Republic
POCs, right? But it wasn't like we would have a business yet. And the first month is really about that you are able to express what the startup is. We are able to pitch it, and you are able to get feedback.
Every day, like for the first month, every day?
Yeah, almost every day, basically. And if it's not that, then it's like education. There's like people coming in, giving, presentations and stuff, and you need to work on some materials and things to prepare. Then the second month is basically building. You build whatever you are set to build, is it a prototype?
But you already have a prototype, right? So you just tweak it or like.
But for wherever you are in the stage, there's certain goal, to get in some shape, right? Usually from the first month, you get so much feedback, you get really crushed that everything needs to change, right? You are changing everything after that. There's no like stone, unturned. And so that really takes a lot of time. And then the last month is about, and in that second month, you have set KPIs, you need to follow through. If it's like, qualified leads or, pilots or, LOI signed, whatever you set, they will help you to set it up, and, you then follow with it, including. So
you set all the KPIs in the second month.
Yeah, including fundraising goals and stuff like that, right? And they teach you to send investor updates every week to all the mentors and interested investors and team and family.
That's how you got connected with Intel, right? Intel Capital.
Intel, that was before that actually.
Okay.
That was through our investors.
Okay.
So that was pre-Techstars.
Okay.
Techstars led us to many other different connections. And the last month is preparation for the demo day, where that's like the pinnacle, right? Where you have 5 minutes on stage to concisely present why anyone should invest in your company and why is it going to change the world, right? And ideally present something, some achievement, something big you managed during the Techstars. For us, that was a strategic partnership signed with NFL for like sports memorabilia and collectibles. And and that was like, in a nutshell, the structure of the program.
Would they provide you like very structured spreadsheet and their own system, for the whole program?
You have like one-on-ones, weekly, sometimes even more often. So they really check on your progress and where you are with everything to make sure, you're not falling behind.
So is everything set like for the whole timeline? Like from day to day, or you have to like schedule like during office hours,
there's day
right?
to day. There's like crazy calendar, where there's like this lecture, the mentor mixer, the one-on-ones.
What if you don't go? I mean, what if you just like,
That's the fun part. So, many times it happened like, we just like, we had to say no to Techstars. We cannot follow up with your program because we are here to run a business, right?
Yeah.
And we need to like do what we think is important. And there was always a heated conversation, but not heated because it would be from their position like you have to follow our program, right?
Yeah.
But more like really going deeply why, what is really important and why, and trying to, of course, help us, but also push us into the schedule because they knew once we would start sliding behind, we wouldn't be ready. And if we wouldn't be ready, we would fail the program at the end.
But is that against the agreement or contract like you have with Techstars if you don't attend any of
if they see you are
curriculum?
not ready, they won't allow you to go for demo day, which is fair.
Oh.
So it's kind
that
of
is
like
smart.
Yeah, it is smart. Yeah.
So
but honestly, they help even if you are totally. You totally miss everything. Your presentation is horrible. It doesn't make sense at all. They have associates.
Another 3 months.
They have associates in program, which were 4 amazing people, which were helping startups with everything. And they just like jump on you, kneel on your head and help you really to put it together.
So do they focus?
No matter if you want or not.
Yeah. So do they focus a lot on like curriculum or workshops, or do they provide you any assistance when you're building the prototype?
Yeah, plenty. You get like so much resources to work with. The advisors,
immediately, or you have to push.
The Techstars associates, that's like suddenly you have basically 4 new employees you can allocate work to, which are extremely experienced in what they do. We actually end up hiring one during the program.
Would they find POC for you?
How?
Like POC opportunity with corporates
through
during the program.
That was our work to do through their network and advisors.
And you pitch
yourself. So they were like an open book, right? These are the resources, these are the things you can do. Here's how you can work with it, and like, go with it. So, they open the door for you, need to walk through, right?
So you have to send a cold email to those corporates, or
you usually work like, you spoke to one of the person and he was like, oh, I can introduce you to this and that, right? So you did a follow-up and that's like how, you were going through it. And that was like crucial, and even 10 times more crucial for a startup which is not US based. So when you are from Europe and, everything, and you want to business develop and get investment in US, it's all about being there actually in person, right? And meeting with the people and having people setting you up for meetings and recommending, like even with our technology, right? Which everyone was saying, wow, that's super cool and amazing. Yeah. If you don't see it in person, it's still kind of, sounds too good to be true, like whatever, some weird guys from Czech, something shady. So that's like huge difference. So I really always say I cannot recommend Techstars enough, and 10 times more for if you're not US-based startup.
I think YC is pretty much the same, right?
Probably. I have no experience there, so can't comment, but I would guess so, yeah.
So have you met any person in the States that you'll be like, wow, like when I saw Bill Gates, when I saw Elon Musk, or like someone that wow you know. No, as a mentor, you know, you met
it was
a lot,
basically like, every second day, you know. And but part of the funny problem was like, you know, there was always more amazing person, and you were always like wowed and like, oh, we should already assign this person as our lead mentor, or we should like have him as advisor. But then later on, you find someone even better, which fits like even like, you know, more in there, right? Yeah. So it's also hard, like not to get to, how to say.
Did you get anyone on your board right now, like as an advisor?
Yeah, we have advisors from Techstars Mentor. Actually, many mentors invested in the company.
So does he have to take like equity at a company to be the advisor, or it is from Techstars? How does that
usually work out? Advisor takes equity, but that's always about, you know, the kind of relationship you agree to, of course.
Cool. So how does the mentorship program work? Is it like on demand? Like they just give you the list and you just pick one schedule?
They prepare a specific like curated list of like, it was something like 60 to 70 mentors. Yeah. Which then you meet during the program.
So what makes you like stay up so late at night, like, you know, during the Techstars program? Is it because you have to like finish, like, you know, investor, right? You gotta curate, like you gotta have different decks for.
Yeah, it was like, you know, I still have tremendous respect for some of the other teams in the Techstars where like one person show. I still do not understand how they were managed to do. For us, it was 5 people at the time. Sometimes we were 3, but most of the program we were like 4 or 5, and we were still not managing, right? And so everyone had their area of work. Yeah. And for me, during the night, it was like, you know, writing emails, doing follow-ups. Yeah. You know, every advisor you needed to write a follow-up, you know, to thank them, to say what you learned, to list, you know, next steps of connections and things you would like them to, you know, to help you with, to follow on to everything, you know, the previous ones started, to follow on all the business engagements, because during the Techstars we were meeting companies, we were meeting investors, right? We were still working on the product, we were doing tons of things during that. Even on the personal notes, you know, the team members were having babies, you know. I was proposing my wife in
at the time when you were.
Time, yeah.
Oh wow! How did you manage that, man?
So it was crazy.
In the States, I mean, were your
no,
wife
honestly,
in
I think
States?
If I haven't like proposed during the Techstars, I think she would already had enough of my, you know, startup adventures. Yeah. So it was like
you did it at the right time.
Huh?
You did it at the right time.
Yeah.
So she was with you. She was with you in the States.
It was a long time where, you know, she was like taking all that pain I was taking, man. Right? And it wasn't easy for her as well. So. But at least, you know you're with someone who can.
Did that go well?
Take
you know, when you proposed?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a great day.
Wow, I was impressed. Yeah, so like, because like we know some of the accelerators here in Taiwan that would hire agent to work on the deck for each startups, which I think is not what we really want to do, which I don't think is right? So is that something Techstars is doing? Like they would hire agent and give you advice, you know? But by the way, you got a very good deck. You know, I like your deck, your slides. Oh, really? And yeah, thanks. It looks very, very good. Super good.
So many experience and iterations in it, you know? It's not like we are good with decks, it's just there's so much pain and time behind all the previous versions. It's just the reality.
Who designed the deck, you or?
No, that's Albert, our team member. So, he's very talented.
So would they give you advice like Techstars, like graphically? Because we saw a lot of startups in Taiwan, very bad slides. Yeah. And it's not like graphically good. So like how would they give you that advice? Yeah.
I agree with that visual presentation communication that in eyes of investors is, you know, many points down, right? Yeah. because you are not able to present clearly and nicely to businesses as well. So it's critical, and even more in the US, right? The standard there is higher. And Techstars had people as well to help you with specifically decks and design. They had all the key areas, market research, UI, decks, help with communication and stuff.
So like, it's a huge budget for Techstars, to get all those mentors and to get all those connections. And I know they are working with more than 100 corporations worldwide. So do you have a chance to like meet with all the corporates at Techstars? Like just tell them like who you want to meet and they will just connect, or?
There's always, Techstars always had an approach like give us a list and we'll see what we can do. There's always someone who was connected to someone. So that was always a way we could get somewhere.
Cool.
Because, and also simple things, all the advisors, Techstars people you had on LinkedIn, it started piling up and you saw who's connected where, so...
Do you fight the managing director? Do you fight like advisor, like mentors at Techstars? Because it's your own business after all, right? Like you gotta take control of your own business. So do you...
We never really had fight. No, that's not. And Yossi, who was managing director, was like so amazing and experienced, and he had like a natural respect. You just really didn't want to piss him off, and there was never any ego in it. It was very rational. So it was always on that level.
Is it easy to do fundraising in the States, like better than Czech Republic or in Asia, Taiwan?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know much about Asia, Taiwan. They have that much experience here.
It's pretty hard.
I have some in Singapore, in Europe, obviously, and US, and in Europe the funds are smaller, the valuations are expected lower. The mentality is different, so it is very different.
Cool. So, lastly, back to Taiwan and Czech Republic. Like, how long have you been here since COVID-19? It's been 4 months, or?
I think since November, if I don't count my trip to US in March, just before
it's been 8 months
started.
8 months, right? So,
yeah.
8.
I guess I'm not counting. Yeah.
How do you think about the culture here, like food, compared with Czech Republic, like you got 7-Eleven here, right?
I love it. There's
and
like
transportation. It's a small city, and
I always laugh about there's this point at the street where we live now, where if you
Simonting, right?
Huh?
You told me you live in Simonting, right?
Yeah, close by.
Yeah.
And if you stand at a certain point by the street, you can see 4 7-Elevens.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah,
it's like,
No, it's like for me, I just love Taiwan. The way how people treat me, how everyone is friendly and respectful. Like.
Have you been to China?
Huh?
Have you been to China?
No, I haven't been. So I can't compare. Like in Czech Republic, everyone is like a little bit grumpy and always expect something bad happening from the other people. It's not that Czechs would be like that bad, but it's just.
What do you speak in Czech Republic?
Huh?
What do you speak in Czech Republic? Is it Czech?
Yeah, Czech language. Yeah.
Can you say something like "I love you"? How do you say "I love you"?
Já tě miluju.
Sorry, what was that?
Miluju tě. Miluju tě. Miluju.
Man, that's tougher than German,
It's like Polish is said to be a bit tougher than Czech, and Polish is one of the most tough languages to learn.
How about you are pretty or you are gorgeous? Like when you talk to girls, like how would you say?
Si krásná.
What does that mean?
You're pretty.
Si krásná.
Yeah, but you don't usually say it like that.
You don't say that in the bar.
Depends on your style,
Yeah, so back to Taiwan, like, do you enjoy like night market and all the food here?
No, of course, yeah, I love the food culture.
Because our managing director is from Germany, and he told me a lot about German food. He likes that so much, and he doesn't like the food here in Taiwan. It's such a huge cultural difference. Like, but how about Czech Republic? Is it like closer to, like culturally closer to Taiwan, or?
I would say actually Czech Republic is so similar to Taiwan in so many ways. There's the history of the repression similar. The kind of national like resurgence and path towards democracy.
Every country does, right?
But if you really look in the history of Czech Republic and compare it to Taiwan, there's many similarities, even in like the how people are here, and in Czech is very similar. If you talk with Czech people, you find like there's a lot of common things and like mentality, but otherwise, of course, the food is very different. Many cultural things are very
different. You get used to it, like the food here?
Yeah,
like I know foreigners, they don't like hot pot. They hate hot pot, man. I hate it so much. Like, I know some Americans.
I like it, but I was always thinking like, if I
it doesn't make sense to
cook it.
It doesn't make sense to put your food into, just to boil it. It doesn't make sense for foreigners.
But it's a great example of the culture thing, right? There, like you spend time with someone, cooking food, and eating from the same thing, and it's like the.
What do you like the best here? Food.
I'm a big on dumplings, so Ding Tai Fung is my.
He's a big fan of dumplings. He has dumpling every day.
It's my church,
Why? I don't get it, man. Like all the foreigners like dumplings, I know Moscow has very similar things like dumplings, and Paris as well. I just don't know why.
Yeah,
I enjoy dumplings, but not like super huge fan.
I don't know. What I'm not fan of is organs and all this stuff. It's like
you don't like organs, right? Like
I just can't.
How about you got all the like beef noodle, like pork rice.
Yeah.
How about those?
No, I love them. Yeah, I'm a big ramen person as well, which is of course.
But ramen's from
not
Japan,
Taiwanese.
right?
Yeah.
Ramen's from Japan, right?
Thing is, like you can get kind of everything around, except a good pizza and Italian food. That's something I would miss. I don't really miss Czech food. Czech food is very very heavy. It puts you to sleep. Like I miss goulash, and svíčková is like a typical national food, but you just have it once in 2 months, and you're done with it.
How about personality, like Taiwan and Czech Republic? Is it even close? Like, how about the education there in Czech Republic? Like in Taiwan, your parents would ask you to get higher education, like bachelor, and then to master degree and go to TSMC for work. But how does that work?
I would say it's probably similar, minus the Asian mentality of like post-school, preparation and all the crazy, like fill your day with things to do and learn and hobbies. But otherwise, I wouldn't say that.
But when you meet your wife's parent, you would have a lot of different things in terms of cultures.
Not really, actually. It was very like pleasant, and they spend as a family a lot of time in Europe. My wife's dad was working in Netherlands, so and they travel tons, so they are like not your typical Taiwanese family, which would be traditional and like could get problematic.
So before we wrap it up, so you're married now, right? To your wife in Taiwanese. So would you move to Taiwan like in the future?
No, I really feel
you will go back to Czech Republic, or you will go to States.
Look, I don't feel.
What's your plan?
I don't feel about Taiwan like this way moving. It's already my second home. It's like very close to me, same as Czech. So I like spending time between Czech Republic and Taiwan as well.
So you'll fly forth and back between Czech
favorite places. Yeah, and more I travel abroad, more I appreciate both countries actually.
Where's your headquarters right now? Is it in US or is
most of the team is in Czech Republic. We have some people in US. I'm in Taiwan. Some even in Germany. So we're a very distributed remote company.
Do you plan to incorporate in Taiwan?
Maybe, yeah. Right now we are starting to put together contracts here. So if it would make sense, we would maybe create a subsidiary here.
Cool. Look forward to it. Thanks for coming, Jakub.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, not Jakub again. Jakub, right? Or
Jakub.
Jakub.
Yeah, but Jakub.
Jakub Krcmar, right?
Krcmar.
All right. Thank you for coming. Have a good day.